What's up, guys? Barrett Freeman here with the PropertyTales podcast. I'm here today with Matt Jones. He's a seasoned real estate investor. He's been a friend and a partner to bounce ideas off of for years. How you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, tell them a little about your day job. This is a real estate podcast, but, most people have a day job. I have a day job. You have a day job.
Yeah, my day job is I'm a physical therapist. Went to UK physical therapy school. Got out in '95 and been practicing ever since. I'm in London, and we got offices in Manchester, London, Barberville, and Hyden.
Has that job made it possible to buy your properties?
Absolutely. So that's where my income has come from. I've always been rather frugal and cheap. Not bought the most expensive cars, lived in the fanciest places starting off with. In fact, I slept on a twin mattress on a floor for an apartment, single one-bedroom apartment for many years. And my wife actually came over before she was my wife, and she saw the twin mattress on the floor. I was like, yeah, I don't know about this guy.
But she saw the potential.
Yeah, she saw me, right?
What were you doing at that time in your life?
I had maybe just a few properties, maybe those 2 8-plexes for sure, and a couple of houses. Not much. And things have mushroomed since then. But I was doing physical therapy. I mean, it was. I've been blessed. I've been fortunate, but I put a lot of hard work into.
Yeah. I mean, so when you first started out, how big was your company? Like, how many employees? How much help did you have?
With my physical therapy company or the real estate? Real estate. It was just me, and it was a one-man show in terms of accounting and management and all that sort of thing. And I had. Not a full-time maintenance guy, but I had a connection where he would come in and do some side stuff for me. Yeah. And one day he did a lot for various folks, and he made the comment to me one day. He said, I don't know if I can do this anymore. He said, I went over to this house and they weren't there. I couldn't get in. And he was mad. He wasn't going to get paid. And I was like, Jimmy, your time's worth something, right? You went over there. I'm going to pay you for your hour you went over there. And he had not been treated that way in the past. He didn't make any money from other folks. And that's just not right. And so I treated him well. Yeah, well, I treated him well. And I said, eventually, you just come work for me. And he did. And worked for me for a number of years. Just a great employee. And we parted ways a few years ago. But I don't think I'd be where I am today without him. He's a very good guy.
So will he always have a special place in your heart for where you've come?
Yeah. I owe him a lot. I kind of feel bad how we parted ways. I got he was very meticulous in what he did, and very, things had to be done a certain way, and he could not work with a lot of folks because they didn't meet his expectations, live up to his standards. But at a certain point, when you get so big, you've got to handle things, right? You've got all these work orders piling up, and if you can't get done, then your tenants get upset, and things start to snowball in a bad way. So the way he was a hindrance when I got to be so big, and he
needs efficiency.
Yeah, he just couldn't work with anybody, and that's just to his nature. He didn't want to compromise on what he believed in, which I respect, but I hope he respected the decision I had to make and go in a different direction. So
it's weird having to fire somebody.
That was probably the hardest fire I've ever had to do, and I almost teared up. I could see we were both kind of trembling. I mean, he knew what was coming. It was a rough day, man. It was a rough day.
So how old were you?
That was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah,
that's rough. So how much older was he than you?
He's probably about 15 years older than I am. Yeah.
See that? Yeah. So I've unfortunately had to fire a few handymen myself, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. We do everything we can to make it work. I'm sure you did too.
Yeah.
Multiple conversation. I mean, what was this conversation number 10?
Gosh, yeah. Oh, more than that. I said, look, you go out and you find whoever you want to work with you, whoever you think you can work well with, I'll hire him. And that went on for a year plus, and he just never could find anybody that he wanted to work with or could work with him. It was an unfortunate situation. I wish he was still with me. Great guy. It just didn't work out.
It's funny because Blake and I have a parallel story. It was just Blake and I at the beginning. We were painting, we were managing, we were leasing, account, everything. And we found this guy that worked for another local company, and same exact story. They were treating him okay, but he was so handy, and they were using him like a grunt worker.
Yeah.
Like he knew how to build a house from the ground up, but they were sending him to an apartment to like unclog a toilet. You need that.
Yeah.
But that he wasn't getting used the way he wanted. He wanted to be more on the construction side. He'd been doing it for 50 years. And finally, he was doing the exact same thing he was doing for you. He was working the evenings for us, weekends for us, or if he needed to slip off, he could. Finally, he just said, I think I'm going to quit my job. I don't know what I'm going to do. And we were so small, we didn't have any employees. He was more just venting, and we're like, we're going to make it work. We need you. And he worked for us for 5 years. And finally, he had a crew of like 4 or 5 under him. He remodeled huge apartments for us. He did a great job. He finally just got to the point where he was just old and tired of dealing with the young kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know what age your average worker is, but when we first started, our average age worker was probably 23, 24.
Yeah.
And he hated it. They didn't treat him with respect, and he didn't know how to talk to him because he'd never been a manager. He could just build from the ground up. Now all of a sudden we're thrusting him into the management position. So that was why we parted ways. It was fine. He just didn't want to be a manager anymore. And by that time, everyone knew him in town, so he had unlimited work if he wanted. We always gave him a good referral and sent him work when, people asked us if we would help him out.
Yeah, if you've got skills, you're always going to have work.
Did you? I guess you just had the foresight when you were younger, but why did you focus on Lexington?
That was just where I lived in Lexington for quite some time. So that, and it's a little bit stronger market in terms of rents, but that's where I bought my first property, and I did venture outside of Fayette County just for a little bit. I had a house here in Laurel County, just one. I sold that. It didn't hold on to it for very long, but just from a management standpoint, I wanted to be concentrated. Right now, I still get deals and offers. Hey, would you look at this property in Louisville or Cincinnati or Nashville or whatever? And it would have to be pretty on a big, large scale for me to, pull the trigger on something like that.
What do you do
from a
with
management standpoint? How are you going to manage that?
What do you do with those leads?
They just come and go. Yeah, they come and go.
I mean, do you ever look at them?
Yeah, I look at them. Yeah, I've looked at some deals. I've looked at some numbers. But the market was just crazy white hot, 2 or 3 years ago during COVID. There were a lot of money out there, a lot of buyers, and prices got up pretty high. So, I looked at them always, but I didn't get close to pulling in.
Do prices go up every year? Have you seen that throughout your career?
For the most part. I mean, you're going to have some dips every now and then, but by and large, real estate tends to trend up in a great way.
What was 2008, 2009 like for you?
That was a scary time because the market was going on a heck. I fortunately didn't have a lot in at that point. I may have been sitting in cash predominantly. But I had a deal come around in 2009 where it was actually to my benefit because there was a property on Virginia Avenue where a guy out of Tennessee had bought 64 apartment units, and he was going to condo them out, sell them as individual condos, okay? And he was going to make a killing. And he did that for one building, which had 28 units, and another building, which had about 8. But the last building, things just kind of fell apart with the sales dried up, and everybody got a little nervous. And so he just offered it to sell to me. So I bought it at, I thought, a fairly high price back then, but it turned out to not be so quite high now because I've had it ever since, and it's been a great property for me. So it was an opportunity for me, I guess is what I'm saying back in those days.
So what did you see as far as the fallout of 2008, 2009? Did you see a bunch of deals?
No, because I was still so early in my career. That was the first big major purchase that I made. Yeah, I had houses up to that point, a couple apartment buildings, nothing substantial. That was my first big purchase.
And you did that alone?
Yeah, I did it by myself, yeah.
I mean, do you have nerves of steel? Was there anxiety attached?
There's always anxiety. So, like, how are you going to do this? How are you going to manage it? Because at the time, I'm working a full-time job down here in London, Kentucky, traveling all these clinics, and I've got all this real estate and property up in Fayette County. And if something goes wrong, who are you going to call? What are you going to do? So you got to know, you have a good resources, a good team in place to be able to handle and meet the needs of your residents up there.
I don't know. How do you handle the pressure?
I just handle it through work. If there's a problem, work to solve it, right? I mean, you can't sit there and bellyache or just get nervous about it. You just got to tackle it, and you got to get it solved.
Well, have you ever partnered with anybody?
Not my first deal, but one of my bigger deals done, I was this close to partnering with somebody, and the partner got a little skittish at the end of the day and backed out, and I was devastated because I wasn't confident I was going to be able to pull off that deal without him. And I did. It took a lot. We scraped together, got the funds to do the deal. And looking back on it, it was better that I didn't have a partner just because I'm a control freak. I want to call the shots. And had I had a 50-50 partner, you'd always have to run ideas by him. He would have been more passive. I would have been more active. and I probably would have resented that because I was doing all the work, but he would share 50-50 profits. So looking back on it, it was a good thing that he was involved, and it's also a good thing that he exited. So.
What did you have to do to make that deal happen?
Oh gosh!
Because if the money's not there, I mean,
yeah, it was
scramble.
It was a $5 million deal, and for whatever the reason, the bank didn't believe in it. Okay, I knew it was solid gold.
This was in Lexington?
In Lexington, yeah, around UK campus. And so we had to come up with $1 million cash. And so did a second mortgage on the house, liquidated mutual funds, borrowed from the parents, did everything we could, got it together like at the last minute, and was able to complete the deal. And thankfully it went through, and he actually did seller financing for us because of the bank. So he took back the loan, or he made a loan for himself, for like 2 years.
He must have really believed, the seller must have believed in you then. Cause
yeah.
We don't.
Well, he had $1 million of our cash, so if we defaulted, he'd just take the properties back and he would have kept our money. So it was safe for him too.
That's about the only way that would work.
Yeah.
We get people ask if we rent to own ever. Have you ever looked at that business model?
Rent I kind of did. I don't think I've ever told you this, but back when people actually read the paper and they were classifieds, I ran up classified in the Herald Leader, say, you pick the house, I'll buy it. And so I did 4 of those without even looking at the house. I just bought the house for them. They put a substantial down payment down, so if they walked away, I kept the down payment. And 2 of them blew up on me. 2 of them were good, so it was kind of a wash at the end of the day. But that's just something I've kind of ventured into.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone do that.
Yeah, so I just bought the house without even looking at it, walking through it. It was probably dumb, but you learn as you go along, and it's something I would not do again. I'm glad I did it because it made me see different things.
Are you still buying houses?
No, I'm more in multi-units now, multi-unit apartment buildings, just for economies of scale and ease of management, that kind of thing.
So you wouldn't buy a house on UK's campus today if it was offered?
You never say never. I probably would if it's in my niche, if it's in my ballpark, my wheelhouse. So I would, depending on price, I guess.
You're an easy sell.
Yeah.
So as far as getting started, one of the questions I got, Facebook, thanks for joining us. This is Matt Jones.
Thanks.
He's a real estate investor out of Lexington. He lives here in London, Kentucky, but he primarily invests in Lexington. A few guys submitted some questions from Facebook, and one of these we kind of blew through, but it was the first question. So realistically, if you're investing in our area, how much money would someone have to save to get into the game? That was the very first question. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but
yeah, gosh, you might be a better one to answer than that. I mean, if they're looking to get in a house, what's the average price of a house going here for? I mean, I have no clue.
Investment house in downtown Corbin is one that's turnkey, get a renter in it, $120,000 to $140,000.
I was going to guess 125, somewhere in that ballpark. So if that's the case, most banks are looking for 20% down, right?
Right.
Probably bare minimum 15 if you've got a bank that's a little bit more aggressive, but usually it's 20. So you take, 20,000, 25, 30,000, which is a pretty good chunk of change.
And that doesn't get you the house. You still have a few $1,000s in closing costs.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Would you say get the first house or try to wait for the first multifamily?
I would probably I'd be fine with whatever you could get. You just want to get the ball rolling. That inertia is hard to overcome, right? So you want to go ahead and start. If you see a good deal, try to execute and capitalize on it and go for it. And then just whatever presents itself down the road. You don't want to wait because time is your friend, right, in investing. So because you're making other people's money work for you. So I would go ahead and pull the trigger on something if I found a good deal.
Yeah, buy it.
Yeah, don't wait.
That's our attitude. Blake and I said 2 years ago we weren't buying any more houses. And
and where are you now?
Yeah, we've probably bought and sold 20.
Yeah.
2 years. We stopped buying and holding.
Mm-hmm.
We're buying and we're selling.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys have Facebook or anybody, if you guys have houses for sale in Corbin, London, Barville, Williamsburg, we are buying those houses. So message me. We'll look at any deal. We try to make the deals work. We love this area. We love investing. That being said, how do you find your deals?
It's groundwork, right? They're not going to be spoon-fed for you. It's not going to be spoon for you. You got to hit the ground. You got to know the area. You got to talk with people. I mean, don't talk through text. Don't talk through phone. Go meet them. Go have breakfast. Did that today with a guy. And don't expect anything right away. It's building relationships, right? They're building trust, and you're building trust in them and vice versa. And if they feel comfortable with you, they're going to feel comfortable. They're just going to feel comfortable. I mean, that's what you want to do.
One thing that surprises me about you is you're not a big social media guy.
No.
So I bet 90% of my leads are social media.
Yeah.
That works for me. I'm not saying it worked for you, but that is surprising. Why not? Why no social media?
You know, my property manager is not even social media as far as getting renters in the door. That's just not something we've done. Right now, we're so established. We have just great word of mouth, I think, and great signs on the building and that kind of thing. So.
And we don't get the renter from Facebook, to be clear, but it gives us, it introduces us to buyers. And it's more the sales side.
I can see the value in that, yeah.
And really, when you're in sales, any channel of getting in front of people, you got to do it. The other day, I was feeling pretty beat up because we had a few deals the night before had fallen through. We thought we'd sold some things. We're trying to flip houses, so they're small. But I was like, man, I'd worked really hard to market them. We negotiated very hard over weeks. Finally got the deal on paper, and then 2 weeks later, they called and said we can't get the financing we thought we could. I understand, it happens, but it was really we'd already spent the money. That was the problem. Like, all right, we're gonna get this much money. We're gonna pay this much in our property taxes for next year. We divided.
You had it down to the penny, didn't you?
We did. You know how it goes, but it was nice because I was feeling beat up because I felt like definitely all that work went to waste. And so we were really busy with law that day.
Well, it's not a waste, though. I mean, you get the experience of crunching those numbers, right, and knowing how to do it. So you want to approach it as a learning experience to do something better the next time, perhaps, right?
And I try to keep that positive twist on things, and I get complimented for being able to do that. But the days where I cannot, I have my brother. I'm like, man, I'm kind of mentally beat up today, and he can tell me that too. And I don't take it home and beat up my wife with it, because she probably understands about a quarter of it anyway. Maybe more. I don't know. I guess that leads me into an interesting question. How much does your wife understand about the process?
Not enough to her liking, and that's been my fault because I've always just been take the bull by the horns, get it done.
So, like, what happens if you die today?
That's always been her concern, right? So, when we first started getting the property in a big way, I had to take out a humongous life insurance policy, which we still have in place.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. It really was. So we kind of put that in the trust and did some things with that. But I've just always done it so she wouldn't have to worry about it. And I thought she would value that, which I think she has over the years. But then at certain points, she thinks, well, wait a minute. What happens if you're in a car wreck and you die? I mean, what am I going to do with all this stuff? So it's a big stressor on her. And so over the last year or two, we've been trying to sit down together, go over the finances. So, okay, here's how this works and this and that. If I were to go, this is what you need to do. So she's become more comfortable with it, but she's not at the comfort level that she needs to be and I want her to be and she wants to be.
Have you ever taken her through a deal from start to finish?
Not really looking at the numbers. I'll lay out the numbers starting off with, and then I'll present that to her, right? So I'm saying, okay, here's what I'm seeing. This is why I think this is a really good deal. We need to do this.
You don't need her permission. You're trying to.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you do.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to buy anything. I'll strongly encourage her, and I'll be upset if we don't pull the trigger on a great deal. But lately, at some point in your real estate career, you got to think about, well, what's enough, right? No matter what you're doing in life, when is enough? And, she's sometimes at that point like, we've got enough, Your spouse is a big thing. I mean, they've got to be involved. Spousal involvement is key. And
so
I've learned
you're married and how long?
Married, been 17 years, 4 kids. Yeah, 4 kids. And, I've always taken upon myself to handle all the real estate stuff. And obviously when we're together, you're married, the spouse has to sign off on a lot. You go to the bank and for the longest time she just felt, well, I'm just the wife that signs papers, and it's got to be more than that. She's got to understand that. So in case anything does happen to you, she understands what to do.
What's her day job?
She just manages the house, manages the kids.
Okay.
Yeah. So, she has all that stress. And for the longest time, I didn't want to throw additional stress on her. Hey, you need to take a look at this. You need to do the books. You need to do X, Y, and Z because she's already doing so much, right? And I try to help out the kids when I can, but I'm working a full-time job and it's like I had 2 full-time jobs for 2 decades, So I've worked my butt off, and there's some regret there, right? So you miss time with the kids as much as you work. And I can't go back and get that. So right now I'm trying not to do as much, and that got back to the question: when is enough enough?
When is enough enough?
Yeah, I don't have the answer for that.
I don't have it either. I'm not even close.
Yeah.
Are you even close though?
Some days I think I am, and some days no. I'm still looking actively for deals. But when you've got so much material wealth, what are you going to do for it? It does. If you got X amount of money in the bank, you're not looking at that. It's not helping. It's just there, right? It's kind of nice to know it's there, but it's not really changing your life in a big way. So,
well, as long as I've known you've had the pedal down,
yeah,
not just in real estate, but in your medical practice as well.
Yeah.
Do you ever see doing 100% real estate while you're young?
No. I think I'll always have the physical therapy practice going. Actually, I talked to an attorney a while back, and I said, I'm thinking about slowing down and maybe doing a little bit less. And he's like, I don't know how you do that. He's like, you either do it or you don't, And that's kind of the mentality I've had. It kind of stuck with me. It's like, I don't know how you do that. And that made a lot of sense to me because I've always been that way, right? Even though I've kind of cut back and I'm not working 5 days a week now. I'm working maybe 3 days a week, 1 week, and 2 days the next. But I'm always on the call. I've always got the phone there. So you're never totally out of it. All right.
Any parting words, advice, business, life, love?
No words of wisdom. I have none.
I don't have any either.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, this has been an episode of the PropertyTales podcast. I appreciate you joining me.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Barrett.
All right. See you guys.
See you guys.
Awesome.